Sword Art Online. This is without a doubt the show that I've been dreading the most to rewatch. I really do not like Sword Art Online, and in my videos I have amount of time I have poked fun at it. I have every chance I get, I poke fun at Kirito for being the shit protagonist that he is. And now it comes full circle where I have to review this show. But when I started watching, I decided to watch the progressive movie first. And it changed a lot. So now I kind of want to compare the old show from 2012 to this new movie that came out in 2021. I'm not really sure what progressive is supposed to be, but I do believe that the author of the light novels, Raki Kawahara, I do believe that he kinda feels ashamed or cringy for the writing that he did in like the original light novel series that he wrote all the way back. And I do believe that progressive is supposed to be kind of like a rewrite or like a more where he gives the characters more depth. Like apparently Kirito is supposed to have more of a character, Asuna is supposed to be more of a character, and there's like more stuff going on. Do I really need to explain what Sword Art Online is? Like, doesn't most people know? At least people that like are interested in anime, I think most people know what Sword Art Online is. But it's just, virtual reality MMORPG, and then they go into it and it's a trap. The creator is a bad guy and he has trapped over like 9,000 people in the game. And if you die in the game, you die in real life. It's, just that shit.
It's not a game. It's real. If I die in the game, I'll die in real life.
What Mirai Nikki did for like the survival like horror genre, Sword Art Online did the same for the isekai genre, or like in another world type genre. Well, Sword Art Online isn't technically an isekai because it's because the fantasy world they're in is just a video game, but this did really popularize and push kind of the isekai genre forward. The biggest difference is between the original 2012 show and the progressive movie is that the protagonist has been changed. While in the 2012 show we completely follow Kirito's point of view, but in the progressive movie we seem to be following Asuna's point of view. Asuna is given more backstory here, or more like a character development. We get to see the way she lives her life, we see her house, we see her family, we see her go to school, we see like the friends and the classmates she has. She's a straight A student and all that. We learn that Asuna isn't much of a epic gamer, she's more of the beginner type. But her like friend at school is like a huge epic gamer and plays games all the time. And Asuna mostly just like plays the game because it's her friend and she likes to hang out with her friends. So he's like, alright, I'll play these little games, fun. But she's no professional at them. Her epic gamer friend tells her, of course, about the Nerf gear and that the new big virtual reality MMO game Sword Art Online is coming out, and she wants to play it with her. The first 10 minutes of the movie is dedicated to kind of showing us what kind of life Asuna had before, which will of course contrast with the new kind of life she will have in the game. And to compare, in the 2012 version, where Kirito is our main character, we aren't giving any like background on him. He's just some angsty emo boy who is in his room and he just boots up the game and bam, he's in the world. Because Kirito suffers from this deadly character syndrome called author surrogate. He isn't really allowed to be a character because he's designed for the author to insert himself into the role, and other virgin losers to also insert themselves into the role of the awesome fantasy hero. Because while I was watching the movie, the progressive movie, I noticed I was actually digging Asuna way more as a protagonist, or like as the main character to follow. She has no idea how to play the game and she will always just die instantly. But she has her friend with her who's a gamer, and she shows her the ropes, and we get to see the main character go from an absolute beginner who has no idea but anything works, slowly getting better and better throughout the movie. While in the original, Kirito just joins the game and bam, he's already awesome. He's already just teaching the noobs. He's better than everybody. And of course, he immediately just, as soon as they find out that they're trapped in the game, he immediately goes out to hunting and gaining XP. And then right in episode 2, we've jumped like 4 weeks into the future, and yeah, we're just told that 2,000 people have died, and yeah, nothing else has happened. They haven't even killed the first boss. Asuna's like gamer friend, I was kind of expecting her to like die in a tragic way, and that would leave Asuna alone to like kind of have to, you know, the training wheels are off and now you really have to go on your own. But what happened kind of surprised me. I wasn't expecting it, that her friend completely like chickens out. She just abandons Asuna, and this is where like Kirito comes in to save her, and I cringed as fuck. As soon as Kirito showed up on the screen, I just thought, oh no, not him, go away.
Are you serious? This is torture. You're torturing me and everyone else watching. Wait.
But her friend bails on her and presumes her to be dead, so now Asuna is completely on her own, and she has to arise to the occasion and get better now on her own. She spends like 3 days in a dungeon just killing enemies non-stop, and also this is where Kirito shows up again, but you know, fuck him.
Now you're dead on your feet. You should fight more.
This feels a lot like hell.
It is here where the plot kind of catches up with SEO, because like I said, we learned that they're trapped in the world, and then we just jump 2 weeks, but Progressive kind of gives us a context of what has been like happening throughout those 2 weeks that they just completely skip. That is like the biggest problem with the original SAO. We skip too much. Immediately, oh, okay, this is real, we're trapped in this world and we can't leave, and if we die in real world. Anyways, 2 weeks, let's jump 2 weeks. What happened in those 2 weeks doesn't matter. Okay, they defeated the first level boss. Okay, never mind, now we're gonna jump 2 months and they've cleared like 4 floors. What happened on those other floors doesn't fucking matter. And now Kirito is hanging out with some token lolly who lost her fucking dragon or something. By the way, where are we? Oh, we're on floor like fucking 10, and we've also skipped another 2 months. And what's this? Now we're on like floor 30, and it's been like 1.5 years, and Asuna is now this like high-ranking war general, and Kirito is more like a mercenary that is like helping them. Like, what the fuck? What has happened? This show skips so much. Good lord, what is happening in this show? It is like it's on speed. It is rushing so much. This is where Raki Kawahara really failed as a writer on his like earlier work in the SEO series. He has this concept that you have this big castle, the Aincrad Castle. It's 100 floor. It's ginormous. This could have been like a long-running series. Just the Aincrad Castle. It could have been a long-running series. But do you want to know how many books he wrote around the Aincrad Castle? Almost a 1. It was a 1 book, and then a second book that was like a side content stories. But the main like story, it all happens in 1 book. Imagine you're watching your favorite shonens and they did this. You watch the first episode of One Piece and Luffy is like, I wanna start my own crew because I wanna be king of the pirates. And then we go, okay, let's go into episode 2. And it just starts with, it's been 2 years and Luffy has gathered his crew and they are on their way to find the One Piece. Sword Art Online is drowning in its own terrible pacing. It feels like Raki Kawahara really just wanted to write his like cringy 12-year-old's idea romance with Kirito and Asuna, because everything else feels like an afterthought. Like, what happened? What happened in those 2 months? Like, how did Asuna meet the guild that she joined? How did she climb the ranks and become such a high-ranking officer? How did she and the blacksmith girl, like, how did they meet? They are like friends, but we never see them interact like friends. I believe the progressive movie is kind of like trying to fix this stuff. It's trying to fill out the blanks. For example, in the original, we're led to believe that Asuna and Kirito first met at like the meeting where they were gonna raid the first boss. But the progressive movie goes, no. Turns out Kirito saved Asuna once, and then he also found her in the dungeon where she was like raiding for 3 days, and then they went to the meeting, but they had already met, and also they also interacted a little bit more before they went to the boss, because in the original show from 2012 they just went straight to the boss. No character development, no interactions, but in the progressive movie we see them interact with each other before they go into the boss. And there is another progressive movie coming out soon, and I do believe that's also gonna be like, you know, because they from episode 2 to 3 they skipped like 2 months, so I'm pretty sure that the movie is probably gonna cover like that. The progressive movie leaves off basically where the first 2 episodes of the original show also left off. So yeah, it kind of ends here with a comparison. So we're just gonna talk more about SAO from 2012 more. When it comes to the movie progressive, I'm gonna say that I think it is a significant improvement. I actually prefer Asuna as a protagonist, and I don't like him, but I do have to say I did find Kirito to be at least tolerable in this newer version. Maybe it's just because he's not the protagonist in this version. He is more like a supporting character to Asuna's story. And I think Kirito works better as a supporting character. I just think Asuna is just a far more interesting character. And seeing her grow from an absolute nobody to someone who's more confident is actually just way more interesting than watching an angsty emo boy who already is god at the game play the game. It's just not fun, it's boring. And yeah, that brings me into the criticism of the 2012 show. Kirito is literally the most boring character imaginable. His like design, his voice, the way he talks, everything about him is so bland. It's so much mediocrity, but at the same time he's put on this pedestal by everybody. Everybody just loves him. People really like to dunk on Rey from the sequel Star Wars trilogy, calling her a Mary Sue, and yes, she is a Mary Sue, but if Rey from Star Wars is like a perfect example of a Mary Sue, then Kirito is the perfect example of the male counterpart, Gary Stu. He is the ultimate Gary Stu. An average nobody who everybody just flaunts to. All the girls just love Mr. Average Nobody, and all the guys just want to be Mr. Average Nobody. His skills are unrivaled. Nobody can stand up to God-kun. Kirito is the embodiment of a 12 to like 14-year-old boy's like angsty emo power fantasy. I enjoyed Asuna in the progressive movie because she was allowed to be her own character, but she is terrible in the original show because she's like set up as like a badass like female character who like kicks ass, but she only does that in the beginning. She's only allowed to be like a cool badass lady in the beginning, but as soon as it starts to be around like the romance between her and Kirito, of course she turns into the most damsel in distress ever. And not to mention that she maxed out her cooking skills so she can make Kirito his sandwiches. Great, a woman making her man sandwiches. Not to mention that Raki Kawahara really likes to write scenes where his female characters are being sexually harassed or sexually assaulted.
Man, it's getting hot in here. I hope you don't mind. I unbutton a couple buttons here.
See how long.
I hope you don't mind that.
Misogyny aside, the romance between Kirito and Asuna is...
Jeez, don't hug me so hard. I'll lose the last of my HP.
I'm gonna throw up, hold on!
Kirito. I love you. if you didn't come back. Huh? I'd kill myself.
Painfully shit. Everything from like the way they interact with each other, the way they talk to each other, the romantic dialogue, everything about it feels like it was written by someone who has never been in a relationship. This is like a child's idea of a beautiful romance story. This really is just a show for 12-year-old boys to like imagine themselves as an awesome fantasy hero who gets the girl. But good lord, does the dialogue have to be this painfully cringe? SEO is also just painfully boring. It is kind of like the whole concept of being trapped in a game is kind of interesting, and it gets you like interested in the plot for a little while, but after a while you realize, oh shit, this isn't gonna go anywhere. And as soon as we get into the romance shit with Kirito and Asuna, it just turns into the most boring shit possible. When they get married and like and go on their like fucking honeymoon in the countryside, it is literally the most painfully boring shit imaginable. Their little AI daughter, what was her name again? Huey? Oh, she is the worst. Kill that character with fire. And this show and the book series has one of the worst villain imaginable. The villain of the story is the creator of the game who has trapped them in the game. His name was, what was his? Akihiko Kayaba. And yeah, he sucks hard. He does this. He traps 9,000 people in his like fantasy world. And when it all comes down, when it all they're being freed, 4,000 out of those 9,000 have died. And when he is asked, why did you do that? Why did you do this? All he has to say is, you know, it's been so long, I've forgotten why I did it. You hear that? That's the sound of me losing my fucking mind! I also really hate the dumb harem angle this show has. If you ask me, I hate them. I hate Asuna and Kirito together. I think they're really cringy. Their whole relationship is extremely cringy and lame. I will take that over him being with her and also having a bunch of side bitches on the side. His like side whores are the worst. His like token lolly, the blacksmith chick, and then later on the gun chick. And were there more?
You're a whore. You're a whore, just admit it. You're a whore, you whore yourself out online, you whore yourself out in front of your family and your friends. You're a whore, plain and simple.
In conclusion, SAO from 2012 does not hold up. It is still a piece of shit. It's still terrible. And I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. And the progressive movie, again, nothing amazing, but it does improve a lot of things. So I'm gonna give it a generous 6 out of 10. Nothing amazing, but decent. But I only watched the 12 episode. Will I finish season 1 and then also watch season 2?
No. Wait.
No fucking way am I watching that shit. Never ever again. I will never watch any of that shit again. I can stomach the Eintracht arc. I hate it. I think it's trash, but I can stomach it. The Eintracht arc is like a 4 out of 10, but the rest, the elf bullshit and the gun bullshit and the fucking cancer story bullshit, all that shit is like a 2 out of 10 to even maybe a 1. It's so bad. But Chris, you only watched the anime. What about the books? You didn't read the books. The books are so much better! Well, I am glad you asked, imaginary commenter that does not exist. But to anybody who was about to make that argument, I did read the book. Oh yes, I went all out on this. You don't know how long I've waited to tear this show apart. So I spared no expense and I read the original light novel by Raki Kawahara. And you know, I thought it was worse. If you have only experienced Sword Art Online through the anime adaptation, and you really hated those time skips that where we just skipped months of just potential story, well, prepare yourself because the book is even worse. The first 3 volumes of Raki Kawahara's Sword Art Online series is available on Audible. That's right, this video is sponsored by I Am Kidding. No one wants to sponsor me, except for obviously my amazing friends at ColombianDrugLords.com. What a great sponsor. They have followed me for years. Please, Audible, please sponsor me. I don't want to sponsor more Colombians. The SEO audiobooks on Audible are even narrated by like the voice actors, Bryce Papenbrook and Jeremy Lee, the 2 voice actors, the English voice actors who voiced Kirito and Asuna.
Gritting my teeth and swallowing the strange sensation that seemed to block my windpipe, I picked up my heels and ran.
Merely a nickname thrown around by the player population.
The way I thought it was gonna go is basically I thought the book was just gonna start off where like the anime started, you know, Kirito putting the helmet on and going into the world, and then we see like him meeting Klein and also seeing the bad guy and all that. I thought that was gonna be like the beginning of the book, and I thought like the first book was gonna like first few chapters were gonna cover like the first boss raiding room and stuff like that, but nope. The first volume just opens up where Kirito is fighting some lizard guy and he's just narrating to himself or like narrating to the audience. The first 2 chapters of Sword Art Online are nothing but expedition dumps. I know the rules of show, don't tell doesn't really apply to novels because, you know, film format and book format are different and you need to, you know, explain a little bit more in books. But I think there's a fine line. I do think you can have show, don't tell thing in books, but you have to have that fine line. But Sword Art Online does not have any of that. He is just explaining everything. He's just telling you that this is like a video game and they're on floor 74 and this is how many people have died, and he's just dumping all this like world building in the first few pages. And then in chapter 3 we just cut to him and Klein training. You know, the scene where Kirito is teaching Klein the whole like basic of the game, and then they get transported into the like the town square where like the villains showed up, and you know, he gives more expedition dump and just explains everything, and Kirito's giving more expedition dump, and then after that chapter we just go back to, you know, floor 74 where he just finishes his boss fight and leaves the dungeon. And may I add, if you're wondering where in the anime does the book take place, well, let me tell you, episode 8. Volume 1 covers episode 8, 9, 10 and 13 and 14. My biggest criticism of the show was mainly that I feel like the show is just rushing, or I feel like it's really speed running to get to some other point. And I also said that it feels like Raki Kawahara really just wanted to tell some childish amateur love story, and everything else, like the game, the story, everything else was just an afterthought. The world building, everything, it's just an afterthought, because what he really wanted to write was his his own like self-insert love story. And that is what the first volume is. It's the love story between Kirito and Asuna. Everything else that happened in like the show, like the first boss raiding and the when he joined the guild and they all died, well, that actually does get brought up in the first book. But you know, in him joining the guild and him meeting the lolly chick and the blacksmith chick, I didn't read the second volume, but I do believe all that happens in the second volume. So essentially, he wrote the first book, it became a success, and then he decided to write a bunch of side content or like side stuff to the original because, well, clearly he didn't see the potential. I did remark that SAO, like this world, the Aincrad Castle, this could have been a long-running series if he had just, started at the beginning. But Raki Kawahara chose to start the story on, like, floor 74. Why? There is one thing, a little funny thing with the book and the show that I noticed. So in the show and the book, there is this, like, sword skill that is exclusive to Kirito because... of course it is. Who else but the Lord and Savior should have that skill? It's called dual wielding. Basically, he can dual wield two swords. In this like world, you can only have one sword or a shield or just a sword, but you can't have like two swords in one hand. But Kirito can because he has a special skill only given to him. But a lot of people have pointed out that in the anime, in the Lolly Girl arc, there is a guy dual wielding two axes. And yeah, that is like an anime only problem. It's not in the book. I just find it stupid that you can't dual wield because the game doesn't allow you to equip two swords. But like, just like, why can't you just pick two swords up? I don't get it. It makes no sense. Why isn't it possible?
It's just not.
Why not, you stupid bastard?
Other than that, I don't really have much to say about the book. It felt like I was listening to a book written by an amateur, and it is. Even Raki Kawahara admits it in the end of the book. He like leaves a little author's note at the end where he says that he originally wrote SAO for like a contest, like a Japanese writing contest, and it was apparently too long or didn't meet the quota, so he just posted it on the internet for free. And the original book apparently had like a full-blown sex chapter between Kirito and Asuna. I think it's called like chapter 15.2 or something like that.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
Obviously that was cut from the official version, but he wrote SAO in 2002, and the official like light novel came out in 2009. I don't want to trash Raki Kawahara too much. I like to think that he also looks back on SAO and kind of cringes and goes, oh no, I was such an amateur back then. I generally just hope that he has grown as a writer and, improved. Final verdict stands as light novel, 4 out of 10. The original 2012 show, 4 out of 10. And then the progressive movie, a 6 out of 10. The Land of the Rising Sun has a vast variety of fantastic animation studios. Some more talented than others. In this ginormous ocean of talent and mediocrity and just good, there can only be a few that stand above the rest. Kyoto Animation, or as the community calls it, Kyoto Annie. Ever since I've been an anime watcher, Kyoto Animation has always been my favorite. A studio that always delivers on animation. I don't know what it is about Kyoto Animation, but they have some of the most gorgeous animation in the industry. Hell, some of their like just shows, straight to TV shows have like animation quality of a big budget blockbuster movie. A Silent Voice was a breathtaking movie. It was so beautiful. But then the show, Violet Evergarden, looked just as good, and that was a straight-to-TV show. I've always liked Kyoto Animation's visual style, whether it's the Nichijou's simple kind of art style, or just kind of the traditional anime style, or something more wacky and weird. When I was younger, around like 17, I was binging a lot of like Kyoto Animation shows, and one of them was Hyouka. And a lot of the Kyoto Animation shows I really liked them, but for some reason I didn't really like Hyouka that much, or at least, well, I wouldn't say I didn't like it, I wouldn't say like, oh, it was bad. It was just a show that I just kind of didn't get into. I remember finding the show kind of boring and empty, and most of the episodes just boiled down to characters in one room, sometimes just talking for 20 minutes. And yeah, apparently 17-year-old Chris just didn't really like it. But now, as a big boy, as a grown-up, I have rewatched Hyouka, and I really liked it. Maybe it really was just a case of that I didn't get it, or I just didn't appreciate it back then. But I really liked Hyouka this time around. Frowny face Hotaru Oreki is someone who likes to preserve his energy. He doesn't like to overdo himself. He doesn't belong to any clubs. He goes to school because he has to, but he doesn't have to join any club. His motto is kinda like, if he doesn't have to do it, he won't do it. And if he has to, he'll do it in the most quickest way possible. He has to go to school, so he'll go to school. But he doesn't have to go to clubs, so he doesn't go to clubs. One day, however, his older sister, who is living in India, calls him and asks him to join the Classic Literature Club because the club is about to be shut down. Being a former member of the club, his sister wants her brother essentially to save the club or keep it going. The next day, Hotaru goes to the Classic Literature Club and meets Erochita. He meets Erochita. Erucitanda. When Hotaru enters the club, turns out the room was locked. Well, Chitanda was locked in the room. I'm just gonna call her Eru from now on. Her family name is a mouthful. Chitanda. What a tongue twister. Say Chitanda 3 times. Chitanda, Chitanda, Chitanda. Upon discovering that Eru was locked in the room, she grows extremely curious. She really wants to know, how did she get locked in the room? Eru kinda serves as the opposite to Hotaru. While Hotaru is really like chill, relaxed, and just kinda likes to be mellow all the time, Eru is way more hyperactive. She's way more like, she's really curious. If there's like a question that has to be answered, she really wants to know, no matter what. And her burning curiosity kind of pushes Hotaru to do stuff. I really like the sequence where, because every time Chitanta gets really curious about something, her eyes like glow, and it kind of has like a weird effect on Hotaru. And in the first scene where we like see her burning curiosity kind of affect Hotaru, her hair like kind of grows out and like it twists, it like turns into these like tree vines, and it kind of like hooks Hotaru, and it's a really weird visual, but it kind of showcases like kind of the hold she has on him. Soon she utters her iconic phrase, "I really have to know." There is no helping him. He has to solve the mystery now. And that perfectly sums up what this show's about. There's some sort of a mystery, Chitanta gets really curious, and then Hotaru goes around, they all go like around, gathering clues, and he puts it all together. Hotaru is like a super detective. Alongside Eru and Hotaru, we have the other Classic Literature Club members. Hotaru's like best pal, Satoshi, and a girl who kinda has a crush on Satoshi, Mayaka. Mayaka has essentially been crushing on Satoshi for years, and she kinda like follows him around, and she joins the Classic Literature Club mostly because of him. Eru Chitanta joins the Literature Club because she has a burning question. She really wants to know what happened to her uncle, who was like one of the like oldest members of the Classic Literature Club. There is some huge mystery, like the plot mostly revolves around like that mystery, and then some like the festival. Yeah, there's like this big festival, the summer cultural festival, and there's some mystery around her uncle. The biggest mystery the Scooby Gang has to solve is the Hyouka mystery, which revolves around Chitanta's uncle, and then the short film that the that another club is making for the festival. Those are like the big mysteries that like take up like 4 episodes. But then there are like these smaller mysteries that take like 1 episode to maybe 2 episodes. But what I want to focus more on is kind of like the theme of the show. Like kind of natural talent versus mediocrity. When I was halfway through Hyouka, me and my brother ended up watching the 1984 movie Amadeus. Amadeus is a biopic about Mozart and the life of Mozart. Strangely enough, the themes that were in Amadeus were the same in Hyouka: natural talent versus mediocrity. In Amadeus, you have Mozart, who is this natural talent. Just from the day he was born, he was just meant to make music. While on the other hand, you have his rival, who's an Italian composer who came from like a poor farm family, and it was just because of luck that he was able to become a composer. And currently in the story, he's the king of Austria's he's like the composer of the king of Austria. He like teaches the king, so you couldn't be in a better position. But he is super jealous of Mozart, because Mozart will always be better than him. It doesn't matter how much love he has for music, how much work he puts in his music, he will never be as good as Mozart, because Mozart is, like he puts it, God's music, or like God plays music through Mozart. And it is this bitterness and jealousy that drives the Italian composer, who essentially is kind of like the main character at points, it drives him into kind of trying to destroy Mozart and his like entire reputation. Well, nothing like that happens in Hyouka, but we have a similar thing, like a similar dynamic going on with the 2 main male characters. Hotaro is not a fan of like mystery stuff. He has no interest in this. He is really bored. He just wants to chill. He doesn't want to do any of this. But he's just born with this natural talent of like catching clues and like puzzle, like, you know, he gathers the clues in his mind palace like Sherlock Holmes, and just like kind of puzzles everything together. And he just always, no matter what, he always finds the answer, and it's always like guessing. He just puts it together and goes, okay, this is what happened, and it always turns to be the truth. Satoshi loves the mystery genre. He's a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie, but he is mediocrity. No matter how much love he has for the genre, no matter how much passion, no matter how much he considers himself to be a Sherlockian, he can never be as good as Hotaro. While he is trying to be this great detective, Hotaro isn't trying. He just is. He just naturally is a good detective. And it leaves Satoshi to kind of just resent his best friend. Not in like a way you see in Amadeus, but there is this, he does care for Hotaro. He doesn't hate Hotaro, but there is this bitterness. There is this like jealousy in him. And I really like this theme in both the Amadeus movie and this show, because this kind of just like, it kind of hit home with me, because I am trying to make a career as a writer and stuff. I want to go to, I'm trying to go to like film school and learn to be a filmmaker, and I want to be an author. But do I have the talent? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. That's the thing. You don't know. But watching this show just kind of hit me with this scary notion of, what if I am not good? Like, what if I will never be good? What I have all these ideas. I have all these like book ideas, film ideas, and I want to make them, but what if I can't? What if I just don't have the talent to make this? And this will always just be in my head. Like, the ideas will always just be there. It will never be put on paper or in a film. So points to Hyouka, it made me depressed. Nah, not really, but it made me kind of like feel like dreaded, and like feel this like dread of like, oof. What if I'm mediocrity? What if I'm not a natural talent? What if I'm just a mediocrity loser? Like, my heroes are Christopher Nolan, Quentin Tarantino, and Martin Scorsese, but what if I can never be like them? I look up to them, but I can never be like them. I kind of criticized Miyochiki for having like a mediocre slice of life kind of score, just like just the most basic like slice of life you can have. But I really liked Hyouka's soundtrack. The show's soundtrack even has Air by Johann Sebastian Bach. You know, the cello song that goes like. That's like a huge theme in the show. That song gets played a lot throughout the show. The animation, of course, is top notch. Coming from Kyoto Animation, of course it is. The show maintains its like animation quality, but there are points in the show where the animation gets like really good. And that's like the special moments where they go like all out and like make it really good for that particular scene. I really like the 4 main characters. I really like the character designs of them, and I really like the like dynamic all the characters have with each other. I even liked some of the side characters. The side characters were quite delightful. When I first watched Hyouka, I do believe I gave it like a low 7. Again, I just didn't get it back then, but I'm giving it a high 8 out of 10 now. This is a really good show. Highly recommend. And yes, it does hold up, or as a matter of fact, it holds up even better than I remember. If you consider yourself a fan of like dystopian, cyberpunk like kind of stories, then you really need to check out Psycho Pass. I feel absolutely confident in saying that Psycho Pass is without a doubt one of the best like cyberpunk dystopian future stories that I've ever seen. Everything from like the aesthetic and just like the world itself and the whole concept of the show is just mwah. It's sublime. It's so good. In a dystopian future where the entire world has just kind of fallen apart, there's just lawlessness and crime and just political corruptness everywhere, except for Japan, which stands as the only like law-abiding country in the world, and it's all thanks to the Sybil system. We are first told that the Sybil system is a sort of supercomputer or like an advanced AI, and its job is kind of like scanning people's mental state. It's called their psychopaths. Everything that is like below 100 is considered like good. You're considered to be mentally healthy. But if you experience a lot of stress or a lot of like fucked up shit, your like mental state gets clouded and your like psychopath rises. And once you get past like 100, there'll be like the police will show up and stun you, and you'll be put into a mental hospital to basically try to get better, but rarely people get better. For those who don't get better, they become something called latent criminals. It basically just means their mental state is too far gone and they can never truly be mentally healthy ever again. There is no hope for you if you become a latent criminal. You're just basically just locked up forever. And this is where like enforcers come in. You have the police, who are like the inspectors, that they're basically detectives, but being a detective is very mentally unhealthy because you have to deal with a lot of horrible shit, and that will, cloud your psychopath. So instead of the inspectors doing the detective job, like the dirty work, they hire enforcers, who are people who are latent criminals, people whose mental state is too far gone. So it's okay for them to experience fucked up shit because, well, they're already hopeless. Once you become a latent criminal, you kind of lose your human rights. You're not treated as a human anymore. The show does a really good job of kind of getting us into the world, because we see the world through the new inspector, Akane Tsunemori. Her being the noob, the beginner, we get to learn everything through her. Her superior, Nobusuka Ginosa, he tells her to not look at the enforcers as people. He just tells her to treat them like dogs, because that's what they are. They are the hunting dogs. We also get introduced to one of the coolest like sci-fi weapons I've seen in like these kind of dystopian future stories, and that's the Dominator. It's this gun that has like it's an artificial intelligent type gun that scans people's psychopaths, and if it's over 100, it goes into stun mode and stuns people. But if it's like over 200 or even more, it goes into termination mode, where it will execute people. I don't really know why it like makes people explode into red paste. You mean, why not just, like normal guns, just kill them? But it's more cool that way, I guess. Seeing people go just like boof and turn into red paste is more epic, I guess. The world of Psychopaths is so interesting because the way this like society is created is that everything is decided for you. When you go to school, and when you finish all your like school, like, you know, just high school, college, and it's time to join the workforce, you're now an adult, the system will decide what your future is. And if the system decides that you are a loser and you will never amount to anything, well, you better just be happy with it, because you're never getting anything better. It's a system that takes away people's freedom or like any like admiration. If you aspire to be something, but the system just says, no, you can never aspire to be that. It doesn't matter how much you want to be that thing. If you want to work this type of job, it doesn't matter. If the system says you can't do it, then you will never be able to do it. And this is where the villain comes in, and my god, the villain is perfect for this show, or for this world. Unlike Sword Art Online, who had one of the worst villains in Akihiko Kayaba, who his whole motivation was just that he forgot his motivation, Shoko Makishima is an amazing villain. He does kind of have that Joker thing going on, the kind of we live in a society kind of attitude. He loves breaking out in these long, like, philosophical monologues and making references to Shakespeare and other, like, famous literary works. But what is really cool about Makishima is that he is such a psychotic sociopath that the Simple system can't judge him. He is a mass murderer, but it doesn't matter because his view of killing doesn't affect his like psychological behavior. Killing innocent people to him doesn't affect his like mental state. He can take a person's life without even just nothing. It doesn't affect him at all. And this makes him unjudgeable, or like the system can't judge him. So he's still, in the eyes of the Simple system, he's essentially a mentally stable man, even though he's killing someone.
The problem is free will has been stripped from the equation. And if man is not judged by their choices, then how are we really deciding who is good and who is evil?
At last, I am surrounded by people who get me. People who understand me and people who think like me. Man, this feels good.
The first like 11 episodes are mostly just building up Makishima as the villain. I really like that instead of doing all the dirty work himself, he likes to target people that are like, you know, mentally unstable and have like this like serial killer like instinct. He essentially like grooms people who have that like serial killer thing within them and really like makes it blossom. And it really is a blast seeing the main character going through all these kind of hindrance, like the guy who killed his coworkers with drones, and then the high school girl that was like killing her fellow classmate and turning them into these like disturbing doll art. It reminded me of like the killer in Dexter, the 4th season of Dexter. He also like killed women and then turned them into these like fucked up arts. There was also this guy who he killed like live streamers or like kind of like internet influential people and took their place or like impersonated them. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine there was like this psycho stalker that killed famous influential like streamers and then just impersonated them and no one was none the wiser? But all these like mini villains or these like mini like psycho serial killers that our heroes are taking down, they're all being puppeteered by the real villain Makishima. And the heroes, all they have to do to take down the little guys, just point the gun at them, and the Simple system judges them as what they are, psychopaths. But once Akane meets Makishima, he has her like her classmate or like childhood, well, not childhood friend, but like a long-time friend of hers hostage. And she can't do anything because the Simple system won't judge him. But here is like where the Joker aspect comes to him. He throws a shotgun to her and tells her to throw away her Dominator and shoot him. It's kind of like it reminded me of that scene from The Dark Knight where the Joker was trying to do like the point with Two-Face with the like coin flip with chaos and stuff like that, he was ready to die for his point. Like, when Harvey flipped the coin, like, the Joker could have died in that scene, and he doesn't care because it would prove his point. And that's also the same vibe that Makishima gives here. He could have died in this scene. If Akane had just taken off the shotgun and shot him, he would have died, but that would have proven his point. He would have made an inspector throw away the Dominator, throw away the Sybil system, and go back to the barbaric ways of the past, where a person could just take a gun and kill someone because they felt like that was just. It's been 6 years since I saw this show, and I always had I always held it in high regard. And I do believe my rating for it was like an 8 out of 10, but rewatching it, it's a lot better than I remembered. It was way better than I ever remember it being, and I already remember it being good, but this second time around, it was like way better. So I'm rating Psycho Pass, at least the first season, a solid 9 out of 10. I did not watch season 2 because season 2 is basically just a waste of time. Nothing happens in it. It hinders the entire story, in my opinion. But I also did watch the movie, the Psycho Pass movie from 2015, and it was also pretty damn good. I'm gonna give that one an 8 out of 10. Unfortunately, I haven't seen the third season of Psycho Pass, though I would really like to see it, but for some reason, they just didn't dub it.
Why don't you just watch the sub? The sub is so much better.
I don't doubt that the sub is good, but it's two reasons. I watched the dub, so if I watched the sub, I would have to completely get used to the new voices, and also, Psycho Pass has a lot and lots of technobabble, or tech talk, or just fancy science word talk, and yeah, I don't really want to spend my time reading texts that look like cyclopedias.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Bland, mediocre animation, terrible writing, terrible, unlikable, and also just inconsistent characters. The plot is so stupid and random and nonsensical, it feels like the author was just making everything as he went on. The whole end twist reveal where the whole answer of the mystery gets answered is just like, who is that? Who? That's not even a character! That was an NPC! The only mildly interesting thing about the show is the silly, corny kills. Like Umbrella Girl. That is, oh my god, that is so corny and silly, but the show takes it so seriously, but it's so corny. When the teacher came and stabbed himself in the throat, again, the show plays it off as super serious, but it's so laughably corny. Oh, and the speedboat guy, the guy that got chopped up into pieces by a speedboat, again, the show plays it super serious, but I just laughed, it's so corny. And Lightning Guy, don't forget about Lightning Guy. Oh, what a glorious kill. Another fails as a horror, it fails as a mystery, and it just fails as a story. It fails as a fiction. It's terrible, it's shit, and I'm giving it a fucking 3 out of 10. Okay, I'm done for a while. I'm gonna take a break from this. I'm getting really tired, burned out. This is a lot of work. Watching all these shows and then also reviewing them, this takes a lot, and I have other stuff to do, so I'm gonna take a break from this for a while, kind of regenerate, because 2013 is stack full of stuff, so yeah, look forward to that, I guess. But yeah, this is gonna be it for a bit, but I will continue this series because I do like making it. I do enjoy making this is fun, even though a lot of these shows are complete dog shit. But yeah, it's fun though. It's fun. Anyways, I'll see you next time, or if I make another video in between that it's not related to this. Either way, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.